Hello, and welcome to Life Diaries, a space where the pages of life open up, one story at a time. These are tales written by experience, spoken from the heart. Take a moment for yourself, and let's begin. Kate's felt-tip pen traced another circle on the calendar page while she frowned in concentration. A thought flashed through her mind. I really should find a red marker. This is a happy date, yet I'm outlining it in funereal black. Surely that's a bad omen. She counted the marked-off days and sighed quietly. Exactly 2 months remained until the due date the local clinic had given her. Pregnancy had proved a strange time, full of mood swings, from tears to sudden urges to jump up and touch the ceiling. The evening before, her husband Tony had caught her at a bizarre pastime. She was happily biting off pieces of plain white school chalk and slowly chewing them. The ultrasound promised a boy, and Tony plus his mother Margaret had already bought masses of baby things in every shade of blue. Who invented these silly rules about dressing newborns by color? Kate thought. They don't affect a child's health or happiness at all. At the clinic, the doctor had scared her a little. Mommy, your calcium level is at 0. Drink more milk, eat cottage cheese. Treat yourself to poppy seed buns. Lots of calcium there. But go easy. We don't want excess weight. Otherwise, you'll be left without teeth by the end of the pregnancy. Remember how many fillings you've had these months? 2 teeth already gone. Take this seriously. At first, Katie was stunned, but, as always, her own mum Faith calmed her over the phone, rattling off practical advice. Sweetheart, you and Polly used to lick the paint off the stairwell walls when you were kids. Nobody had special pregnancy diets back then. A kilo of buckwheat, half a kilo of meat, a pack of butter, that was a week's vitamins. And look at you too, big and healthy. If calcium's really that bad, buy some school chalk, a couple of boxes, nibble on it and the calcium will come back. Just don't buy the colored stuff. Beauty isn't the point here. Kate took the advice with irony. Pharmacies stocked endless modern supplements, and the women's clinic displayed garish ads promising miracle pills. She didn't believe in those wonders. Fate decided otherwise. On their landing lived a girl whom Margaret called that impossible swot. 2 days later, Katie met the studious youngster outside a stationery shop. The child beamed at her. Auntie Katie, I'm so glad I found you. Teacher said to buy colored paper and paints. Mum's on late shift. I smashed my piggy bank and brought money, but I'm scared to go in alone. Of course, let's go, Katie replied cheerfully. I haven't been in a shop like this for ages. Been meaning to buy a pattern book myself. Plenty of time right now. Let's go. The 2 curious customers examined every display, and there Kate spotted a box of snow-white chalk she suddenly longed to taste. She bought 2 small packs. At home, she waited until Margaret, forever poking her nose into everything, went out. Katie was on maternity leave. No work, genuine freedom. She tried to stay out of the flat to avoid spending a whole day with her mother-in-law. Better an extra hour in the fresh air than chatting with the old rat, as she secretly called Margaret. Kate glanced around guiltily, hoping no one had heard her heretical thoughts. She loathed her mother-in-law with all her soul, and the reasons had piled up. To city-born, aristocratic Margaret, Kate was a crude farm girl. In the fragile china kitchen, Katie felt like an elephant, unsure how to sit or how to answer the woman's needling questions. During her first visit, nobody even offered her tea in the lavish sitting room. Too much honor for some hick from a village where you still had to walk to a pole for phone signal, and the internet had only arrived a couple of years ago. For her grandfather, the web remained an alien UFO. Bow-headed, Kate thought about life in Granddad's cottage at the edge of the village. It felt distant, as if 1,000 years had passed. She'd never have left for the big city if Granddad hadn't died. He'd been sipping samovar tea opposite her, jolted twice and fell silent forever. She'd been terrified even though she knew 90 years was no joke. Katie's mother Faith had borne her late, from a visiting manager who'd come to oversee some project. The lively shop assistant had already been eyeing married locals for true love. Village wives guarded their men, and Faith had an issue. Tiny waist, generous hips, and ample top that embarrassed the young PE teacher. By 16, she looked like a full-grown woman in miniature. Hence the nickname Mini Venus. By 18, Faith's body, in pity perhaps, shot upward. In 2 years, she'd reached 5'11", and everything else grew proportionally. Village men stared but steered clear, afraid of their wives. Rumors swirled, all for nothing. At trade college, Faith fell for a city basketballer. Passion flared. She fell pregnant almost immediately, panicked, and had an illegal abortion. Later, the doctor's verdict that she might never have children left her dry-eyed. Who at 18 thinks seriously of motherhood? Faith's own mother had died young, a blood clot in the fields while picking tomatoes. There'd been nobody to talk about women's matters. Her father raised her alone, loving, not strict, strong as oak. Many lonely women eyed him. If anything happened, nobody knew. He saw no oddity in Faith's figure. He himself was tall and solid, so he said, "You turned out perfect. Don't listen to the gossips. Finish college, come home. Our house is good. My grandchildren will live there." Faith obeyed. She dumped the basketball hero, moved home, and for years ruled the village store, later adding a bar for the menfolk. Travelers and truckers couldn't resist the statuesque shopkeeper. Even married ones struggled. Locals turned a blind eye. "Better visitors than our own lads getting ideas," the women said. Faith was generous. If a jealous wife glared, cheap vodka might vanish for half an hour. A broke husband got shoes on credit. Someone's birthday earned a cake. Kate's father, Leo, was short and slight, but charmed women effortlessly. Seeing Faith behind the counter, he froze, then recited beautiful poetry, probably his own. He showered her with orchids, French perfume, Belgian chocolates, took her to the seaside. Only problem, he was married. His wife lived luxuriously alone in the capital and ignored his escapades. When Faith became pregnant amid the romance, only heaven knows how, Leo packed up and vanished. Faith and her father were ecstatic. Another child's voice in the house. People called Leo a crisis manager. He'd revive any enterprise and disappear. No one found a trace. Was he even real? The villagers wondered. So Kate was born when Faith was 40. Mother and granddad doted on her. Then the unexpected. A German engineer installing fertilizer plant equipment fell for Faith. 2 meters tall, red-faced, hands like sledgehammers, yet speaking perfect Russian. One day he lifted Faith by her fur collar to move her clear of a slushy puddle. Everyone gasped. "Pragmatic," he told Faith. "Come to Germany with me. I own a sawmill in the Alpine foothills. You'll have everything. Fresh air, a chalet. Your daughter stays in Russia." Father and daughter discussed little. "Go if you like him," Granddad said. "Kate will stay with me." 2 years later, Faith bore a son, Paul, but strict German thrift meant only Christmas gifts reached Russia. Phone calls and later Skype were allowed, though, so Kate, by then living in the city, stayed close to her mother. Villagers smiled kindly at Kate. She resembled Faith, but smaller. "Kate, you belong in a city drama school with that face," women told her. She laughed it off. "I'll be a bookkeeper or nurse." Later, she reconsidered. She loved cooking and applied to culinary college. One night, glad that Margaret was visiting a friend, Kate sipped tea when the doorbell rang. Odd, Tony and Margaret had keys. On the landing stood the neighbor, mother of the SWAT girl. "Kate, come down." Margaret fell ill after a phone call, right on the bench. "The ambulance is coming." Kate rushed down. A neighbor waved smelling salts under Margaret's nose. The older woman opened her eyes, focused on her daughter-in-law, and whispered, "Disaster, Kate." Tony fell from the sight, dead. Circles swam before Kate's eyes. She clutched her belly, sank onto the curb. Voices came through cotton. "Make way, emergency. And the wife here, she's going into labor from shock." She felt a jab. Darkness. She woke 3 days later. Tony was already buried. The doctor said they'd barely saved the baby. Margaret was in cardiology. Tony had been buried in a closed coffin. The company handled everything. Why had he gone to the 25th floor? Safety gear was fine. 10 days later, the case was ruled an accident, filed away. Margaret and Katie now had to coexist until the baby came. They tiptoed around topics, visited the grave together. Margaret grew meek, seeded the kitchen. Katie craved pineapples and chalk. Margaret indulged. If nature demands, chew away. A week before the due date, stress put Katie in hospital. Baby Johnny arrived like a ray of sun. Curls of jet black hair, huge gray-blue eyes. Margaret adored him, bought everything top of the line. Katie protested, then gave up. Grandma would babysit round the clock. By 3 months, Johnny thrived. Katie even slept through nights. Life seemed to mend, until one night she fetched water, heard Margaret's whisper, "I can't wait for my Tony to come home. My poor boy, he barely agreed to this cruel charade." Kate froze. Tony alive? Witnesses had spoken of a mangled body. Margaret continued, "I've endured that yokel woman a year, only for the grandchild. Did you see her chubby cheeks? Can't dress or style her hair? Only good for cooking. I've arranged references. They'll say she stole food and drink. Her mother's in Germany, no help. Granddad's dead." Katie remembered Tony's tenderness. Could he have acted for a year, waiting for the birth? Resolution formed. Flee to Granddad's house. That night, while Margaret slept, Kate packed essentials, left luxury baby goods behind, and slipped out for the first bus. In the bus, Tony mulled over his mistake. Cold, perfect Liz from England, Margaret's dream choice, couldn't bear children, and was soulless. He thought of warm Katie and their son. Where were his brains when he agreed to the plan? At the village house he hesitated, but Katie stood on the porch holding Johnny. "Kate, darling, forgive me, let's start over," he pleaded. She turned. "You're mistaken. This is another man's son." She invited him to stay the night for safety, proposed a DNA test next day. Shocked, Tony left into the dark. Kate, relieved, realized she'd finally spoken truth. Johnny was Raven's, Theodore's, child. That year-old encounter replayed. The hens party, the rock group in leather, Raven buying her leggings when her tights ripped, the unexpected night that made Johnny. Raven, real name Theodore, had vanished on tour, leaving only bittersweet memory. Back in the village, Katie found a letter from Granddad with 2 5,000-ruble notes. "Buy yourself something." She cried. A local dairy plant needed a part-time cook and let her bring Johnny. Life steadied. She did the DNA test. Not Tony's child. Margaret raged. Tony rented a flat, silenced his mother. The divorce was swift, painful. Only Johnny brought joy. His curls urged Katie on. Theo sat in his penthouse office, a year after graduating top of his law class. The long black hair, leather and studs were gone. The guitar gathered dust. Friends from the band had families now. Occasionally he strummed and remembered the tours, and the vanilla donut he'd never forgotten. Irene had married her drummer. They had twins. She'd told Theo that Katie had married, had a son, and moved. Theo's secretary reminded him of a corporate party celebrating a contract. He winced, hated such gatherings. But duty called. At the event, his restaurateur friend praised an outstanding catering spread. "Where did you find this gem? I've never seen such appetizers." "From the provinces," the restaurateur said. He phoned, and moments later she walked in. Katie. Theo's heart lurched. She didn't recognize him in his tailored suit. The party ended. Katie hurried home. Johnny was with the neighbor. Outside, Theo caught her hand. "Katie, it's me, Raven." She believed her heart, not her eyes. Strangely, after Tony, she'd stayed faithful to the memory of this rock musician. Walking her home, he said, "I'm Theodore now." At the entrance, she halted. "You have a son, Johnny. He's 5. Decide if you'll be Dad or Uncle Ted." The lift ride was silent. Johnny burst onto the landing, huge, dark eyes assessing the stranger. "Hello, son," Theo said softly. "Let's go inside. I've a lifetime to tell you about, and I hope you'll forgive me for being away so long." Somewhere far above, 2 parallel lines, those that should never meet, quietly converged in the night sky, witnessed only by 3 people: a black-haired man, a black-haired boy, and a pleasantly plump woman who still smelled faintly of vanilla.